This clip is sponsored by Med Travelers. If you're an SLP interested in travel therapy, visit medtravelers.com to get started. What would you say to somebody who's like, I'm really thinking I want to do this? Like, how would you suggest that they prepare themselves for this, or like questions that they could ask themselves, like, is this right for me? Other than, am I going to go crazy being alone? But
I think, and I did talk to a friend from grad school who was kind of toying with the idea. I do think that if you want to work remotely, it's a great idea, but I would work for, I've only done it through school systems, so that's going to be what I'm speaking to, but I'm sure there are private practices that use teletherapy. Make sure it's a district that is very familiar with teletherapy. I've worked for a district that has tons of teletherapists. So they have your para set up for you. They have online assessments. They have online materials. They have a network of professionals who care about you and are trying to troubleshoot your issues. I could not imagine going into a school district that's new to teletherapy or only has a few and haven't worked out those kinks, because they're so integral to your actual outcomes. I think that you should question if you think you could do it for 5 days a week, because last year I was at my wit's end and I tried to quit, and they're like, well, you could stay like 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, and to be able to kind of pick what allocation you want was huge for me. So now I'm like, oh, I could do 3 days a week of staring at the screen and doing teletherapy and kind of spicing up my life on the other 2 days. So kind of knowing what you're looking for. If you are okay with the monotony of 5 days a week of doing teletherapy, yeah, that's for you. If not, ask if there are other options. I think another huge piece that I would want to know in an interview is, do you get paid regardless of who shows up? I'm very lucky that I'm kind of on it's an hourly, but it's also a salary kind of, like I'm guaranteed hours. So even though my kids aren't absent that much, when they are absent, I am still getting paid. I had a friend who did this during COVID and only got paid for the sessions where the children showed up for it. So this woman who was pregnant, trying to work through the end of her pregnancy, probably make some money for this incoming baby, made like pennies because so many no-shows happened. So they maybe sat at their computer for 8 hours and 2 people showed up, so they got paid for 2 sessions. That would never fly with me. I would advocate for the fact that you're preparing, you're setting it up, you're a professional, and if you're not willing to pay me if someone doesn't show up at school that day, that's not on me. That's something that I actually talked someone out of taking a job that was like that, because we can't control. We know what, in whatever setting you've worked in, you can't force someone to come to therapy. And even though it might be easier from a computer screen, now that schools are back in session, the kid still has to come to school to access the teletherapy. So yeah, making sure what your payment would be like is key. I think feeling comfortable with yourself and feeling strong in your clinical skills, where you kind of have to do a lot of troubleshooting on your own in the moment. Even today I had an internet glitch and I'm like, okay, my IT hat's coming on. How do we do this? And I'm texting my para, like, connect to this hotspot and do this. And I'm like, who am I?
Like, look at me.
Yeah. But you're not at a school who you have an IT person right there who can help you, or you don't have a coworker who might know where the record form to the Goldman for stone. Like, there's a lot of organization you need and a lot of hats you need to wear, and you have to be willing to kind of embrace all of those roles, because it is just you. There is a team behind the scenes, but when you're on, it's only you. I think being flexible is huge in this field, because there are so many things out of our control when it comes to the internet, or when it comes to who your assistant is, or when it comes to, like, is there a fire drill or an earthquake drill and you have no idea what's happening, you just see the screen go black. It's scary. Like, there's a lot that could
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that I feel like sometimes you get kind of left out on the messages from school. Like, you are part of the school, but maybe you're not invited to the end of year functions because they don't really know you. And because I've been at this school for 3 years, I have great relationships with all the teachers. But the first year I remember being like, not one person knows me and not one person cares what I'm going through and not one person's on my team. Yeah. And that was hard. So if you can kind of be flexible and go with the flow, I think it's for you, but you also have to be so organized and willing to kind of roll with the punches. I know that's in most settings, but when it's just you, there's a lot of punches you might have to roll with.
Yeah, and I used to think too, being tech savvy and having those skills, that's the number one thing that would make you good at this. And now that's towards the bottom, and everything else you just said is at the top. I'm like, you have to be, the one thing I feel is critical thinker. You have to be able to okay, what happened? What steps do I need to take? And you have to be able to do that because you're right. It is you. You don't have someone down the hall that you can go to and say, help.
Right.
So I think you really hit the nail on the head. The problem solver, flexible. You just got to be able to roll with it because things will happen. And if that thing is going to ruin your day, you're going to have a lot of bad days.
Right.